Welcome back. The African National Congress has convened a two-day local government interventions workshop in Ekurhuleni. The gathering is aimed at aligning the ANC's 55th National Conference resolutions and the 2023 January 8 statement. The workshop will address pressing issues facing local government sphere. And to discuss this issue a bit more further, we are now joined by ANC NEC member and chairperson of the Local Government Intervention Subcommittee Task Team. And of course, his name is Parks Tau. Mr. Tau, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition. One can say that it's no doubt that, coalition governments and municipalities are struggling because of the continued challenges facing local government in this country. Hence why you as the ANC are now convening this workshop in Ekurhuleni.
Thank you very much. We have convened this workshop particularly to deal with challenges related to governance, challenges related to service delivery, and a whole range of other issues that impact local government in the country. And that would include areas such as you've raised issues with regards to coalition governments, how the ANC participates, whether we're maximizing service delivery in this regard, or whether in fact this is working to the detriment of service delivery. So it's a comprehensive set of issues that we're discussing. It is a workshop, so it's not a summit or policy discussion platform. It is a platform where we look at the specific problem, identify the issue, and find solutions to the specific problems that we encounter.
Of course, we understand that day one of that workshop kicked off today. Maybe if you can just give us a bit of insight in terms of, what came out of day one of this workshop.
One was looking at, in particular, issues related to national government and the impact this could have on municipalities. And let me make a few examples. So, for example, municipalities receive capital grants from national governments and other grants, including equitable share grants. There are instances where municipalities in distress, particularly those that don't have their own revenue base, sometimes find that they've used an infrastructure grant, an infrastructure grant to spend on salaries because it's month end and they don't have money in their account except the money that's there for the grant. What tends to happen is that because the municipality is in that situation, we impose a penalty from the point of view of national government that takes away part of the equitable share. And we're saying, but those are discussions that need to be heard about how do we resolve the penalties imposed by government institutions on municipalities that impact on them negatively. This would also include penalties for late payment of, amongst others, electricity, for water services, and so on. And the extent to which these penalties can be debilitating to municipalities. So we're looking at a different array of issues that come from the other spheres of government that impact on municipalities. Tomorrow we'll be looking specifically now at the individual municipality, going into them case by case, what needs to be done, what is the problem, what are the solutions, is it governance, is it lack of revenue, is it lack of capacity to spend on certain capital grants, and what support do they need, and what interventions is required from the National Executive Committee of the ANC and our provincial counterparts.
And Mr. Tau, it actually brings me to that question surrounding the ANC and how it handles its coalitions. Maybe will this be something that you will be unpacking a bit further as to say whether, how you are governing in coalitions and whether that seems to be working for the ANC. And I ask this because there is still that big question surrounding your approach to coalitions. I mean, in the city of Johannesburg, for instance, we have a mayor who comes from a minority party, and so does the speaker of, the city of Johannesburg. Is that approach working for the ANC?
Developed a national policy document and framework document on coalitions as the National Executive Committee of the ANC. And the intention is that this would be rolled out in all municipalities which are in where the ANC is in coalition in one form or the other. Tomorrow we'll be spending a bit of time discussing this document, particularly with those that are practically on the ground. what have the arrangements meant in Johannesburg? What have these arrangements meant in Ekurhuleni? How do they manifest in terms of practical implementation and what needs to be reviewed? So we'll be having a session that discusses that, but also getting practical feedback from those of our employees that are involved in coalition governments and therefore identifying solutions in this regard. But as I said, we've developed a framework. It is a guiding document to how we would engage in coalition governments at a municipal level and how to ensure that these work and these are sustainable. Of course, this is sustainable from the point of view of the ANC itself and the political party, the ANC, but certainly there's also a process in government that seeks to address that, as led by the Deputy President, who will be convening different political parties to discuss coalitions and how they've manifested in our country.
You also have a relationship with the EFF in some of the key metros in Gauteng. Will this also be something that you will be tackling, especially in line of, looking at that convention that will be held by the DA, which has said that you as the ANC are not invited, as well as the EFF?
It's quite interesting that the DA would take that direction. They were the first party to get into coalition governments with the EFF, and they found that it didn't work for them, and now they're putting a scarecrow in front of the whole country about the role that the EFF can or can't play in the country. Now, we are not going to discuss specific political parties. We've taken a view as the ANC that we are confident of an outright majority in the elections going forward. So for us, for them to get into a moonshot, whatever arrangement it is that they've put in place, it's their decision, it's their approach as to what they want to do and who they want to work with. Certainly, there are significant policy issues in which we differ with the DA, and this would include, amongst others, programs such as affirmative action, issues with regards to broad-based Black economic empowerment, which is the core of the transformation agenda in this country and the redress agenda in this country for those historically disadvantaged. All
right, Mr. Pakstau, thank you so much for your time. That is Pakstau, the NEC member, as well as chairperson of the Local Government Intervention Subcommittee.